Hey, what's going on? This is a video of a practice round at Angry Beaver at Elon Park in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm an intermediate player preparing to play. We've got the Charlotte Amateur Championships A tier coming up. So this is kind of like a course reference video and a study video, both for myself and for other people that want to see the course. So it's not just me shooting around. It's more me throwing a bunch of tee shots off each hole, maybe speaking a little bit about the hole. So that I can study it, as well as to provide, some footage of the course to other folks that will be playing in the tournament and are interested in seeing it. For Angry Beaver, this is the rule sheet pulled off of the tournament website on Disc Golf Scene. So we're playing all short tees, all targets marked long except hole 2 short. Very nice. This hole first, maybe 6 to 7 holes on the course, a little bit of OB scattered around. There's kind of a creek that runs through part of this course, and typically that's where you're going to find that OB. So hole by hole, I'll kind of try to call it out. But that being said, let me switch over here and we'll start commentating. So first hole, I didn't grab a picture of the tee sign, but it's roughly 300 feet. You got to go through this gap and downhill and straight ahead. There's OB Creek behind it. So my idea of the shot here is this kind of flex. That's a Halo Leopard 3. You could probably throw a mid. My apologies for blocking the frame. But I think kind of what you're looking for is something that goes straight out the gap and finishes straight. There's OB behind, so you don't want to go too long. And if you throw like something like a driver, right, or a wide rim, something overstable, I think you're bound to fade out, whereas the basket's just straight ahead. So I think if you go with like a mid-range or like a neutral to understable fairway driver and kind of turn it over or push it straight at the basket, I think it'll work out. I don't think you need to disc up a whole lot for the distance just because it is downhill at the end. So I release mine a bit high, but it just gets lucky and gets through everything and gets down to the green. So there's a few folks out, so I didn't throw extra shots off this tee pad, but most of them I'll kind of explore some options. And we'll try to discuss them. So this got lucky, filtered down here by the green. There's a creek on the right. So this is 90-degree point of view from kind of where the tee pad was looking. So I'm off to the left of the basket right there, relative to the tee pad perspective. So get down there and throw in a par. As long as you get out the early gap, I think is the key on that hole 1 there. Hole 2, we're playing the short basket position. So it's right up there on the right. It's going to be 300 feet. I'm going to be speaking mostly from a right-handed person's perspective. So if I say forehand or backhand, I'm speaking for a righty. So right hand, I think, forehand's the right shot. You can totally put a backhand in the circle. For me, it's just more of you want the disc to finish to the right at the end of the flight. So to me, the forehand is the shot that matches. This is a destroyer. I end up trying to throw the flex line, but obviously don't throw it great. Ends up on the left, and it's okay. This is kind of more of the attempt at the hyzer flip forehand. Kind of turn it over a bit too much. There's OB on the right and the left, so be cognizant of that, but in general, I'm not too concerned about it. This is an attempt at the backhand. That's an ESP Meteor. Too much hyzer / don't turn it over enough. That pushes out past the pin and maybe like circled like 60 feet long and left. This is where my first drive ended up. Pulled it over left. Not too bad over here. I mean, the hole's not long enough where scrambling is going to be hard. I just think you don't want to go OB right, and otherwise you should be able to get up and down for par. Not too bad. Okay, next hole, hole 3, 566 feet. I'm going to pause it real quick. So this is kind of like, I think it's kind of a double island, right? So we're teeing off into an island here, and then I can't remember if this path up here is inbounds or not, but the basket's going to be up here on a plateau that is also kind of like an island. There's a hill on the right on it that'll slope off to the road. But what you're trying to do here, there's a blue rock here that indicates 300 feet from the basket. You can get there with a mid-ranger putter from this tee, I reckon, right? I'm playing through a group, so again, I'm rushing a little bit, but I'm just going to take this kind of neutral 10-speed driver, put it up here on hyzer and let it fade in. This is definitely too much disc. Like, it's not so much that I'm worried about it going long, but when it comes to it, I'd rather throw a stable mid or fairway driver, maybe like an Explorer or a Reactor. and just land it right here. You don't want to be short of this because A, you're going to be pretty far out, and B, you might get cut off by these trees. But if you kind of try to land in this upper right portion of this first fairway island, I think that's kind of ideal. So kind of put it up where I want. It gets like a lifter, maybe just 2 nose up out of my hand, so it's kind of high, but it ends up landing out just fine. It's a bit deep, so my angle coming in has to be over these trees as opposed to around. Well, I could throw around them. I'm intending to throw around them, but end up kind of putting it a bit inside and early. But regardless, still end up with a putt. You can see here, okay, here's the OB line. So this does end up being in bounds. So I guess if you wanted to, there is OB down here on the left, though, if you go long. I was going to say if you wanted to, maybe you could try to like crush a drive. I don't think it benefits you at all, though, right? Maybe if you're like really, if you're like a really big guy or something, maybe you try to go up here. I don't know. I think just playing here and even a bit shorter than where I am is even better, because that opens up your around the right angle to the pin. There's also a hill on that side of the green over there that slopes down to the road and will go out of bounds. So anyway. So yeah, I end up here with whatever this is, like 30 feet or 35, I can't remember. All right, it's a good bid. I'll take it. So that was hole 3. Next hole we got coming up will be hole 4. This is kind of where we get into, in my mind, the why Angry Beaver is known as a pretty difficult course, and we're about to get into the woods here. So there's OB on the left still in play up here, so you don't want to go early left. My idea is to just throw a putter, maybe, a mid-range, just straight down the gap. If you get off here on the right, it's jail. If you're early left, it's also kind of jail. If you push through straight and then kind of go left, I think you're okay. But in general, I'm just trying to throw something that's generally down the middle of the hole. It's only 500 feet or whatever, so it doesn't take a lot of distance. So I kind of yank it a little bit. I throw it into the trees on the right. That was like an Envy that's a little bit beat up in base plastic. So I'm not sure if I'll alter that decision or not. I could think of maybe going like neutral mid-range dead straight instead and try to land up here on the left. That would be. I just realized on this shot, now that I'm in here on the right, that I have left my entropy over at 716 on Eager Beaver. I threw like a ton of shots off that tee and couldn't figure it out. Anyway, so again, right here is jail. Try not to be right. But then again, left side early is also jail. But if you can see that you get halfway up this fairway, it thins out over here on the left. So that's kind of my ideal landing spot, I think, going forward. Try to pitch out to the middle, throw it a little too far. But luckily, it kind of trees get a little sparse up on the left side of the fairway at this point. So not too much trouble getting to the basket from here. Oh, another cool thing about this course is that they have distance markers every 100 feet out, right? 100 is red, 200 poles are white, and then the 300 poles are blue. So it's super helpful. I don't think there's anything super dangerous about this green. Generally some trees protecting. I don't think there's any OB back here, so it should be cool. Hole 5, 290 feet. Bends hard right. I don't know how you could throw a backhand on this that gets close to the pin. I feel like it's got it for a right-handed player. I feel like it's got to be forehand, and you almost need to play a skip in order to get it over to the pin enough. This is a fireball. Okay, so this is going to be a fireball. I'm going to go with the forehand. Try to just get it around the corner and let it skip to the basket. Yeah, I don't think I'm throwing that much better. You could probably throw something with a bit of a wider rim to try to get a bigger skip. Maybe that's a better play. But for now, I'm content with that. Nothing too notable about the green. There is the one tree on the ground short of the basket, which is kind of funny. Might prevent you from getting closer than you would. But in general, pretty straightforward hole. Oof. Hole 6. Uphill, 230-foot shot. It's longer than that. Or at least it plays longer because it's uphill. Anyway, I'm going to go forehand vulture, try to push it straight up through the gap. This is a Big Z vulture. It's almost as stable as my fireball, to be honest, right now. But I'm trying to get like a forehand up here that just pushes straight and then fades at the end. Yeah, so too stable. Now I'm going to try the backhand. This is a ESP Meteor. Just put it up there and let it turn to the basket. Ends up being really good. So I'm not sure. I'm probably going to go that ESP Meteor play going forward, because the forehand is like, you got to push it straight, but I'd be a little bit afraid of turning it over, whereas that backhand play I feel like is a bit more generous to you making errors and not being as mean. Okay, hole 7, 300 feet downhill through a tight gap with a creek in the middle of all the trees. It's OB. So right down here, this is OB Creek. Here's your gap. Pin's kind of back here on the right, hiding behind those trees. I'm going to throw a forehand reactor.
Yes.
Yay. So that was like the line, but it's a bit short. So maybe disc up a little bit from that. Maybe I could throw that forehand vulture again, right? And give it like an old flex line to try to push it a little farther. Here's an idea of the backhand play. Throw a backhand envy down there. Getting a little short, but I'm just happy enough to hit the gap on this hole, to be honest. I couldn't be asked. Like, not going to be much happier than I already was with those 2 shots. So, end up obstructed here by these 2 trees. So, something to think about when you're coming into this green is try to be somewhere where you're not obstructed by those 2 trees. Otherwise, I think, just pick something that you're comfortable hitting that gap with, I think is the main thing. Hole 8, 500 feet, par 4. It's going to be uphill to start, right? You're going to go up here. You're going to try to land like over here on the right. So I think you could throw a forehand or a backhand turnover, whatever your preference is, and then it's going to be downhill and slightly right to the basket. So it's only 500 feet. Second shot's downhill. I don't think it takes. You don't have to get big off the tee, right? So I'm going to just throw an ESP Meteor on a backhand turnover line. Just trying to kind of push it up here and have it finish off to the right. About exactly like that. I'm not sure if I catch a tree or if I need to get more right than I think, because I actually do end up here on the left side. So I think going forward I'll try to get a little bit more to the right than that. Pin's going to be down about here somewhere. I'm probably, I guess, still 220 feet out or something like that. Not exactly certain. Going to go forehand reactor. Flick it down there, and that's it. That's all the hole takes. Just 2 mid-range shots, and you're there. So, hole 9, 330-foot par 3. I felt like this was going to be one of the more challenging holes, because it's another pin's going to be 330. It is the 330 feet down there. I think that distance sounds about accurate, and it's down here on the right at the end of this. So you're going to have to throw a forehand, finish it right into the green, or a backhand turnover. The only thing to me is, like, at this distance, it's hard to get a backhand turnover that's going to finish right without either risking turning into like a cut roller or throwing something to get the distance and it being too stable. So I've got this ESP Undertaker, kind of understable, but kind of stable. So I'm going to kind of put it on a forced turnover line. Give it just enough. It's getting over there. And just at the end, it's going to stable out by the green and finish on the left side, but it's pin high and it's at the edge of the circle on the left, so that's fine. I'm going to try the forehand a couple times. This is a finish line era. It's like one of Drew Gibson's new discs or something. Anyway, so turn that over in the trees on the left. It actually fights through and kicks out up there, up the fairway a bit, so it's pretty good. This is a forehand destroyer. That's old Star Destroyer. Had it for 2 years. It's beeping in. So that ends up in the circle, maybe short 30 feet. I can't decide right now if I like the back for my own game, if I like the backhand turnover line better or if I like the forehand line better. I feel like the forehand line is the more consistent play because all you just take something stable and push it down the left side and let it finish right into the green. The backhand play, oh man, I think it's also good, but I mean the basket's on the right at the end of the flight, so to me it's more of a natural forehand shape. I feel like my backhand's a little more, I've put more time into my backhand than my forehand, so I feel like my backhand's better though. Anyway, so I think you can go either, but in my head it's naturally a forehand shaped hole. Not too much notable about the green. It opens up, so it's pretty nice. As long as you get most of the way down the hole off the tee, you're not going to have too much trouble. This is where that forced over Undertaker ended up, close to edge of circle or whatever on the left. That's fine. Right where the camera is about where the forehand destroyer ended up. So I think you got options, and I'm leaning towards the forehand. Hole 10, 330 feet. It's going to be kind of a downhill shot. Pretty tight fairway, right? So basket's elevated down there, but it goes a bit downhill. This is such a straight shot, and the fact that it goes down at the end of the hole emphasizes to me that you want to throw a neutral to maybe, slightly understable disc. If you kind of go stable and you end up throwing it too high, you can easily end up over here on the next hole's fairway, with a ton of trees between you and the basket. So I'm going to try to throw ESP Meteor on some hyzer, flip it up, and just push it straight down to the green here. Even though it is probably over 300 feet. I don't think you need to throw that much because if you get it dead straight down the middle, you'll probably get some good ground play. And disking up, in my mind, is some risk just because of, your disc is probably going to be a bit more overstable and it'll fade off to the right if you throw it too high. Anyway, so that's my thinking at this point. So I'm going to go, again, ESP Meteor or something akin to that on kind of a flip up to straight line. I end up yanking it, though, and throwing it into the trees on the right. Gets through everything. Ends up 70 feet out, or pin high, but 70 feet out on the right. That's a DX Leopard 3. It's a little too flippy right there for the angle I put it on. What do we got here? This is a Halo Leopard 3. This is kind of what I was talking about. Throw it high, a little too stable. That ends up catching something, and it stops like 70 feet out or something down on there on the left. ESP Undertaker, don't throw it well. What we got here? This is a neutron reactor. I like this a lot. I don't remember where that finished, and I can't see because I blocked the camera. But that kind of, here's a glow reactor. That one hyzer down the right, and that ends up, I don't know, 50 feet or something. I like those reactor plays. I might be going on a flex reactor. I try to throw ESP Scorch, and just don't commit to it. So this is where that first ESP Meteor ended up, turned it over, shanked it kind of out to the right. So pin high, as long as you get most of the way down the hole, don't think you're going to have too much trouble scrambling. I think a big part or key thing on this course, like statistically, and I think it normally is going to be green in regulation circle 2. Because or better, right? So if you're green in regulation circle 2, 80-90% of the time, then it's like you're never going to have to scramble. And basically in my head, what that means is you didn't hit early. So come into the course with your understanding how to throw smooth and being confident and being able to kind of hit your lines in terms of like where you're releasing the disc. If you come in with like an early or late release, I feel like you can get kind of eaten up on this course because you're just going to have to scramble a lot. And if you progress majority of the way down the hole off the tee, I don't think you're going to have too bad of a time. Hole 4, 530 feet. What we're looking to do here is right here where this tree is, you want to start heading up there to the right. If you go past these, you can still get to the fairway, but you're going to start getting cut off if you push past these. So to me, the ideal shot, if you throw a turnover backhand, try to land it, come inside of these trees. Same thing with the forehand. You want to get around this corner, but hyzer in or push inside of these trees right here in order to have a good look and to keep progressing towards the green. If you go past those, you're likely to catch some trees and kind of maybe, you know, not be clean from there to get to the green. I'm going with a flex forehand that's like a fireball, kind of like a firebird. I end up pushing, I think, 2 straight, right? I want to come inside of those trees. So I end up catching something and not getting any extra distance off to the right. Here's me trying a variety of other shots and not throwing them well at all. A couple more attempts at the forehand, gave one backhand turnover an attempt. I really just think that forehand fireball is the play. So I did catch something here. So ideally I bring it in a bit earlier and hopefully kind of land up right up here. So here's the 300-foot pole. Pin's right about here. So pushing this far, it's kind of awkward in this distance because you have to try to throw some flex line. Whereas if you're this distance out and you're just, you know, maybe a bit more inside up here on the right, you've got, I feel like, a much easier, much more manageable 280-foot shot with a turnover or a straight forehand. But anyway, all I'm trying to say is I think that you should try to come into this section of the fairway earlier than the trees that I'm standing at. I yanked it a bit, but got lucky enough to get through all the trees in front of me and all the trees on the right side. End up here in the circle's edge, just outside the circle. Nothing too notable about this green I can think of. Again, I think the holes has to do a lot with the tee shot, trying to get a good placement so you can have a manageable second shot. Okay, hole 12, par 3, 333 feet. This one's kind of tough because it's uphill, so it's like, you know, you kind of gotta put a little bit of a move on it, and then additionally it's either got to be this kind of, I don't know if you can throw a flip up for, if you're a big forehand guy, maybe you can throw a forehand down either route, but in terms of, for my game, throwing the backhand, has to be a hyzer flip down the left is what I've always tried to throw in this hole and is what fits my eye the best. The problem is throwing something that can get that distance and have that much flip can kind of be touchy. Anyway, I'm going to throw a DX Leopard 3 right now. I'm going to put a VIP hatchet in my bag just for the shot. Additionally, though, I haven't played here a lot, and I haven't played here with other people. So I can also see like a backhand down the right side working out somehow. It's just not, I just can't see a clean line with my eye. I do end up trying it a few times, but right now I'm fully committed to this backhand turnover line with that. I think that hatchet's going to be what I choose to throw it with, but this is just that DX Leopard 3, a little bit inside, ends up getting like circle 2 or something like that. I'm going to try to throw a few down the right. I don't throw any of these good, so I don't even know. It's probably not worth a whole lot to have this footage in here. But this is what I was trying to do with the idea of throwing it down the right. That's not stable enough because the pin's going to be like back here. So it needs to push up and then hyzer off after getting about here. To pull that inside, doesn't hit anything, just pushes up into like circle 2 or something. That was a FD. I'm trying to throw ESP Scorched on the left. Don't give it the right angle or put enough on it to turn it over enough. Here's where that DX Leopard 3 ended up. Some kind of circle 2 look. Ooh, almost. Nothing too notable about the green, just some scattered trees here and there. Hole 13, 308 feet. Pretty straightforward backhand. You want to throw something not too stable. I wouldn't throw anything maybe that's understable, but also I think I would err, you know, pretty neutral disc. I'm going to throw a Halo Leopard 3, which to me is a pretty, I don't really turn this thing at all, but it will stand up and fly flat and straight for a little bit. So you could probably throw a mid, like I could maybe throw a reactor here, but this kind of Halo Leopard 3, I don't know, you know, other manufactured discs that are similar to that, but just a pretty straightforward backhand. Pin's going to be right here on the left, so you don't want to go too stable, but I also think stable is the safer side to err on compared to understable. Yeah, so just throw your backhanded choice down the middle. I'm not sure if this settled here or if I caught this tree. If it caught the tree, then I'd probably want to try throwing the shot a little differently, maybe a different disc, but it worked out, so that's my plan for now. Hole 14, 505 feet. This is different than the T sign, I think. Yeah. So this T sign makes it look kind of straight, right? And I think there maybe was a layout with a pin like that. It's much more of almost like a U-turn. If I was designing this T sign, I would have it go to here and then the pin be like over here. Maybe here-ish. Anyway, so off the tee, I think you want to throw backhand that you're going to get a lot of fade on at the end. So I'm going to try throwing like this ESP nuke. And my plan right now is to throw it high to try to get a lot of left, to give it a lot of space and air to get left at the end of the flight. And I love that out of my hand, but I catch a tree. And when we get down there, I'll kind of explain, but I think instead what you actually want to do, throw about the same disc, like something overstable that's going to get, that you know is going to fade and get left, but throw it lower than I did, because the trees kind of thin out on the far side of the fairway, I think. So my idea now, instead of playing high and trying to get a huge kind of sweep off of it, is to throw it lower, still have it, try to fade and hook as much as possible, but a little bit lower, more penetrating, and try to have it hook around the kind of more far edge of the fairway, as I believe the trees are more sparse on that side, and you are less likely to be cut off going into the green. So again, just like that, but maybe this amount of height instead of that amount of height. About half the height. Here's me throwing, that's a fireball, kind of like a firebird. I split like this, like a disc-wide gap right here.
Just went between.
Yeah, it went like straight between those trees. So this is where that first drive ended up. That was high, and it must have hit one of these trees, right? So even if it didn't hit one of these trees, I'm still like here or something. But if I throw that low and I get it to push around these trees, here's the basket. So I think trying to finish over here is fine, even though, I mean, there's trees over here. There's trees everywhere, you know what I mean? But I feel like the gap is kind of here that you're going to want to approach through. So I think a lower disc flight and try to skip over into this area is my game plan going forward. Step back and just try to throw a forehand that hyzers in, or excuse me, a backhand that hyzers in through here. I yank it and it goes through those trees. It slides up to the circle behind this little guy. And we'll toss her in. Okay, hole 15. This one's pretty short, like 230 feet downhill. There's a lot of different positions, but for the layout that looks like we're playing short to this pin. Not a whole lot to be said. In terms of the backhand, I feel like the flight of the forehand coming in, right, from the left side fading to the basket is more open than a backhand flight. The backhand flight would either have to, I don't know, come through here and be a turning to the basket, or you'd have to try to like pure this gap. I don't know if you could try to like throw a real slow disc that hyzers in from here through these trees, but to me the play is a flex forehand that gets over here and then dumps to the basket as it slows down. So this is a forehand reactor, and I throw it terribly and it just goes through those trees, so that's fine, I guess. Here's a trying to thumber out. Don't really commit to it. But here's another thumber. Commit to it a little better. But I catch this branch. I actually really kind of like that thumber play. Here is a forehand justice. Throw it the same way I threw that first forehand, which is not good. Attempt at a backhand, just going to throw a berg at it. That's fine. That ends up putting, I think. Here's a forehand berg, just kind of straight at it. That also ends up like right beside that backhand one. So I can't remember exactly where they were, but I don't think it's probably pretty easy to overcomplicate this hole. Just throw a straight putter. Ideally I think forehand, backhand is fine if you don't have a forehand, but just throw a straight putter down there and get a putt. Don't overcomplicate it. That's what I'm trying to tell myself anyway. Yeah, so this is where that first forehand that just snuck through those trees ended up. So pretty cool. They have this huge tire with the mulch in it. It's pretty cool. There's the long basket. It's back there on some islands. It's pretty cool pin. This hole didn't have a T sign. What hole are we on? 16. It's uphill. I would say it's, you know, about a little bit longer than the last hole, so 250 or something like that, but it's uphill, and I almost think it plays like 280 to maybe, I don't know if it plays 300, but I'd say it plays in the upper 200s in terms of distance. I'm going to go, it's pretty straight gap, straight line, right? I'm going to go ESP Meteor, basically a hyzer flip backhand. So just get it out a bit to right. I'll try throwing the Envy real quick just to see if it'll get up there or not, and also hit a tree with it. So again, biggest thing on this hole, just throw something straight that you're comfortable hitting your line with, and just try to toss it up there and get up to the green. As long as you're in the middle, I don't think getting up and down's hard. Nothing too notable about the green that I can remember. Hole 17, 300-foot shot. You're going to have a straight tunnel gap across like an opening with a road, and then it's going to finish kind of hard right into the green. Key note there that I think I pick up on now is that finish hard to the right. Yeah. So you want to like push down here, but as soon as you get to here, you can dump hard right. Okay. I'm going to try first this forehand destroyer, and I push it too straight and flat. So I'm going to end up down there in the trees on the left. This is a ESP nuke, a little bit more overstable. So that one I loved, and that even ended up, I think, on the left side somehow, pushing like too far, basically. So here's a forehand fireball, kind of like a Firebird. That one's a bit sawed off. So that last shot, I believe it is it, but thrown less, you know, flatter and with a touch more, less height, a little bit lower. Just bring it in, try to have it come in right here and skip over to the basket. Here's an attempt at a backhand. It's that ESP Meteor. That's not gonna, it has to turn real hard to get to the basket. So I'm not sure how you would do this with the backhand, because that ended up like over there on the left. I ended up there after my first shot. I'll throw a great shot, but it rolls under this little bridge thing. And you can tell me if this is a legal stance or not, but stood on top of it, I guess. Hole 18, last one, 285 feet. There's a lot of holes out here where the basket's at down on the right, I feel like. Right? I feel like this is like something, maybe 6th hole at least. There's a lot of holes with the basket's on the right at the end of them here. Anyway, so it's going to be another forehand in my head. I'm going to forehand that green destroyer, just try to push it up there. There's like a big manhole cover here, and there's the basket right there. But you can kind of use the manhole cover as a gauge of distance. You want to push past it a bit. So that was just too high. If I throw that lower, I get the distance. It came up short. That one I yank over. Let's see, this is the fireball. That one I think I threw better. I think if I throw the destroyer on that line, it gets there. I don't quite get there with that fireball. Here's a backhand ESP Meteor. That ends up being my closest shot to the basket. I'm not going to, to me, this is a forehand shot. I'm not going to throw it, but in practice, that was the one that ended up closest. That's a Big Z Vulture. That ended up in the circle somewhere, or pretty close, I think. There it is right there. This is the first one, again, that's a destroyer. Just need to throw it a bit lower to make sure I get the distance. The green, there's this big open side, so I think you're better off trying to be, you know, come in from long and left as opposed to risking being short and right, just because it's more open over there. Weird little straddle out. And anyway, so I'm excited for tournament. I think it's coming up in like a month here, so I hope this video ends up being helpful to some other folks, or wonder whether or not it's a good way for me to study and prepare for the tournament. I've recorded this week, whatever weekend I recorded this. I also recorded around at Angry Beaver, Idlewild, and Renaissance Park, like Rennie Pro. So those are all the intermediate courses for the MA2 field. So I'll also have videos up of practice rounds at those other 3 courses. And maybe if you're also playing CAC but in a different division, you might also have some of those courses on your schedule. So I'll try to get those up here shortly, and hope you guys have fun throw in some plastic over the next week or whatever, and have a good one.